We know you. Let's finish it. Old cat. He was still recovering from all the damage we'd done to him earlier in the day. That worked to our advantage. Otherwise, we would have been in dire straits, I think. Alright, so we're back to the top of the plateau. That was just almost comical. When the game was released, there was a whole lot of talk about, hey, you can look at a mountain and you can actually go up there. Well, you didn't talk a lot about how big a pain in the ass it can be to get there sometimes. Especially if your playstyle is like this, where I want to go the places that they want me to go, sure. But I want to do it my own way. I want to select my own path. It wouldn't make any sense for a guy like Ettient to just look for the easy way up and take that. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't fit our whole plan of stealth and surprise attack. So, whenever we are approaching places like this, we're always looking for the direction to attack from that they will least expect, which is never through the front door. So it's just something that we have to contend with. But luckily, all of our scouting earlier in the day had made it very clear to us what the path up was. This is the perfect instance of what I'm talking about right here. What they want you to do is approach through a system of connected towers and all this kind of stuff. We don't want to do that. We don't want to go to the places that we can be fairly certain are going to be heavily guarded. We want to attack from positions that are unexpected. Perhaps even somewhat insane. Somebody there. There's a tree. Cover. Now the cool thing is we already know they're forsworn up here because we scouted this area earlier in the day. We did it from the underside of the plateau edge, right across over there. We were right underneath there to the point where we could hear them talking, which is pretty awesome. And now we're in a position to attack from the other side, at least knowing a bit more about who we're facing. See, these are the hoops they want you to jump through. But this character survives by not jumping through those hoops. So, alright. Well, we've got eyes on what's going on here at the summit of the plateau. And what do we see? A lot of structures they've built camps around. Look at that. There's a blacksmith's forge. You can see at least 2 guards. One here. Some kind of an altar space. And there's one walking patrol over here. Pretty sure we heard at least 2 over there when we were doing recon yesterday. So at this point we're gonna say we've got a minimum of 4 to contend with. And this structure here, and this raised drawbridge. Raised drawbridge isn't going to keep anybody out, but it certainly is a defensible position. If they ever had to defend the top and just pitched battle here, this would present whoever was attacking en masse a lot of difficulty. For us, it doesn't matter. All right. So we've gotten one angle on things. All right, here's the backside of that altar area. Since we're up here, let's get a look around here too. See, there's that butte over there. That's got some kind of a structure on top of it as well. Seems to be right in the center of the plateau. Okay. Yep, there's a Forsworn sitting right down there at that table. All right. Now the camp extends to the edge of the plateau, and then we've got some structure here. What is this? Ah, a descending stairway and a camp down there as well. All right, I think we've got the lay of the land here. Now that's a tent much like the others, except it's way fancier. It's embellished with lots of bones and things like that. And it's at the top and near the altar, which says to me that their leader could be in there. If that is their leader... Oop, look at 2 more. No, 3 more. Okay, so I'm thinking right now we've got a minimum of 7 enemies to contend with, which is probably out of our depth. This area looks like it has some traffic. Like maybe they walk patrols up here from time to time. That could be. All right. This is some good recon because we've got a much clearer idea of enemy strength here. That's one we've already counted her. Okay, we need to go around the back of this. We got enemy strength, but we don't really know what they're up to. We haven't figured that out. Yeah, there's another one right there. So if I were to venture a guess, we'd be looking at enemy strength here of 8. I think it's interesting that they haven't occupied these towers. Maybe they do occupy these towers during other times of the day or something. We don't really know. We're only speculating at this point. Take that for kindling. All right. Let's continue on down here. Just want to get a sense for what these structures are all about. Yeah. Door is barred from the other side, so... Okay. We don't want to touch it. We don't want to go out that way. We don't want to give any indication that anyone's been here. So... Now we know where they are. We know who they are. We know how many of them there are. And we know a secret way to get into their camp completely undetected. Our work there is done. We have successfully reconned that place, I would say. Wolves. Okay, now... That butte could be the next point of interest, and if my direction sense is correct, we're heading in roughly the general direction of that larger camp that we spied earlier. So... it might be interesting to see if we can find ourselves a concealed spot right up here in the heart of the plateau to set up a camp that's fairly centralized. I don't want to deal with these wolves right now. Someplace that would allow us to see a couple of these major structures from one spot and then operate between them. Again, the way that I see it right now is we're just doing our due diligence, so if we can set up a base camp here that we can come back to and we know that we can successfully come back, then we can go about gathering intelligence in other places, getting our equipment together, putting together a plan, and we can attack these places being better equipped and prepared. All right, so since we're wandering around, let's talk a little bit more about Ettient. Personally, we've reviewed some things with him regarding morality and all that kind of stuff. We've talked about the circles of character conflict and discussed his relationship with self, with others, and with society. One of the things I wanted to address is the issue of religion. Ettient is not a pious man. He's not a religious man. And I think that that is sort of in keeping with the fact that he is surprise. He's a bit jaded. Well, we got bit once and shouldn't have, but I muffed a shot. Everybody's perfect, especially Ettient. And that's one of the things that I like about him. So I think there's probably multiple reasons why he may have rejected the Altmer religious tradition. Because one of the questions that, or one of the comments that came up on YouTube was, well, you know, he's a high elf. So when he was in that cavern, he should have recognized an altar to Ariel, because that is, you know, a god in the high elf tradition. Look at this hidey hole. Ooh. Kind of like that. But what I'm saying is, yes, maybe. The other thing, though, that we need to consider is there are a lot of people that come from families with religious traditions. You know, families who, you know, have been Catholic for years and years and years, but unless you're a practicing Catholic, you don't necessarily understand everything that's involved. You don't understand all of the symbolism and all of that stuff. This is a great spot. Look at that. This is a really good spot. Okay, let's... have a look here. So what we understand of Ettient is that he's kind of a hard-boiled, jaded fellow. And his outlook on religion in general and the gods is that a god only has power if a god has worshippers. And a god with power is a god with power to wreak havoc in the lives of mortals. He takes exception to that. He's a man who has always determined his own destiny, who's always carved his own path. He doesn't believe in fate. He doesn't believe in things being preordained. He believes in man taking action on man's behalf. That's what he believes. And so, as a result, he has some disdain for organized religion because he believes it's an institution that by its very nature is giving gods the power they don't deserve. That is his philosophy. Period. So, no, he's not a religious man, and because of that, he would not necessarily understand the symbolism that we see in something like an altar to Ariel, for example. He wouldn't... That would probably be lost on him. You could say either he doesn't recognize it, or probably more accurately, just plain doesn't care. And I think that that is a philosophy that's in keeping with who he is as a person. He's a guy who's seen a lot of bad things happen in his lifetime, who's done a lot of bad things, who doesn't really put any credence in the afterlife, does not expect that he will have any glorious afterlife. Remember, he's a guy who is kind of has an interesting attitude about death. You know, for him, death is a foregone conclusion. For most people, it is. But in his case, his assumption is rather fatalistic, that he is going to die a violent death, and that's the way of it. So why worry about it? So there's an answer to that question. That is Ettient in a nutshell when it comes to the idea of gods and religion. He doesn't really have a use for them. Okay, there's a guard down there. Now check out the awesomeness of this spot. Okay, we've got the butte on one side. We've got the towers on the other side. We've got the trail leading down to the lower camp. And from this spot where our tent is located, none of them can see us. But all it is a quick jaunt to the top there, and we will be able to see everything that we need to see. Now, what's even more amazing, I think, not everybody thinks these things are amazing like I do. But if we go down there and stand on that pinnacle right there, that point, and look down, we can see the large camp that we were talking about earlier. So if we just sneak on down here, come up here and look down right there, that is that big old camp that was in that river, or at the end of that river. Right there. And somewhere, way over there, is the crow's nest. So we've got so many landmarks here that we can use to keep track of where we are. And look at this spot. I mean, from here we can see there's a camp here. We can see the distance all the way up to the main camp. We can basically count up all the guards that we're dealing with. And, by the way, we've gathered additional intelligence in that we can see that there's an entryway into the mountain right here. So this isn't a dead-end camp. This is going into the mountain here. There's something else there. So this one spot right here gives us everything we need in terms of the ability to just monitor what's going on. So if we get up here on a clear day, my guess is we'll be able to see a lot more. All right, mission accomplished. We did it. There he is, chilling out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again for watching another episode of The Passage. I appreciate all of the time you are spending watching these videos and all of your input in the comments below. I thank you once again, and I will see you next time.